How's it going, everyone? Today's focus is on an Arc Warlock build. It's featuring the Vesper Radius. This is an insane build that gives you maximum ability uptime, allows you to intrinsically take care of overloads and unstoppable champions. You get 2 for 1 with just one build. Your survivability is insane, and you get a huge buff to your teammates with their Arc Souls, so this is a really nice build, so let's go ahead and get right into it. To start our build off, let's review the exotic chess piece Vesper Radius. For one, it is the ugliest chess piece there is, but that is what it is. Unless you buy the new appearance for the transcendent geometry, which is still not the best. Unfortunately for the build, you just kind of don't look the best, but it is what it is. So, the Vesper Radius has Planetary Torrent. Allows your Rift to release arc shockwaves that allow you to blind and do damage. You also get an increase in class ability regen when you're surrounded by more targets. So 3 targets get 250%, 4 targets 666%, 5 enemies 1000%, 6 and plus you get 1500% increase to your class ability. So you don't need anything going to your class ability, as your Vesper Radius will do it no problem. And if you're surrounded, you're standing in a healing rift, you're blinding targets so they won't attack you, and you're getting your class ability back as it is anyways. So you're really going to have no issue getting your class ability. So if you set it up, you can cycle your abilities really fast. So you want to spam that class ability as much as possible. This chess piece can be used in different builds, so you may see a different future build of mine, so definitely like and subscribe so you can stay tuned for those. But I really recommend using it for Arc, as it'll be maximum effectiveness here. For our Arc abilities, we have Chaos Reach, will allow you to stay at a farther distance and jolt targets. What is jolting targets? Jolting allows you to deal additional damage and chain to nearby targets, while also the ability to stun overload champions. With Chaos Reach, will allow you to do a consistent beam from a long distance, so that you stay in a good situation, though you also destroy everything. I'd recommend using Chaos Reach on boss targets or high health champion targets. Be very aware, do not use it on a barrier champion unless you just recently stun them, as by the time your cast is over, you're going to need to immediately break the shield again. Your best bet is to use it on overload champions and unstoppable champions. For your class ability, use the Healing Rift, as you won't really need that empowering rift, as your whole kit is designed for high damage. So the healing rift will be the best bet to keep you alive in the situations. You'll be spamming it all over the place, so allow your teammates to stand in that so they can get an overshield if they're in their past their normal health. For your glide, I recommend balanced glide. It's used for about everything. You can also use strafe or burst glide depending on what options you'd like to use. For your melee, I would try to stay away from ball lightning unless you really need a situation where you need a long melee hit, as your best bet is going to be chain lightning, as allow you to intrinsically jolt. It gives you a built-in ability to jolt overloads. You don't do anything else. If your whole build, you already can take care of jolts just by using your melee, which will be up all the time with this build. For your grenade, you should use the pulse grenade. The pulse grenade is insane. It does the most amount of damage. It lasts the longest thanks to one of our fragments of magnitude, which increases the lingering duration, and it'll also jolt thanks to our other fragment, Spark of Shock. These two feature together, and it means you have a long-lasting grenade that's doing a ton of damage, and also putting out those jolts. Those jolts will take care of the overloads, and also, pairing with our aspect electrostatic mine, when you defeat a jolted target, you'll create an ionic trace. Ionic trace will make you amplified thanks to electrostatic mine, and also give you ability energy back. This can work for all abilities, so it's really helpful to get those ionic traces farming the best way you can. So with Arc, if you can use a weapon that generates ionic traces, it's always a nice benefit, but most of the time your kit will take care of both of it. As a reminder, your Vesper Radius does blind. If you blind a target and then defeat it, you get an ionic trace. If you jolt a target and defeat it, you get an ionic trace. More abilities, more uptime, it's insane. You'll be amplified all over the place, so I wouldn't recommend anything else for your exotic piece that needs to apply amplified, as your electrostatic mine will do it for you, no problem. Your next aspect is going to be Arc Soul. This is kind of like a personal turret for yourself, that anyone who walks into your rift, including teammates, will get an Arc Soul buddy with them. If you're amplified, it'll do increased damage, which will be all the time, so it's always nice benefit. So whenever you're with a team, whether you're doing a raid boss and everyone else took care of the wells already and you're just doing damage, you can put on the Arc Soul, so everyone on your team can take care of ad clearing or just boss damage with those extra Arc Souls. So more damage is definitely a benefit, and it's a way to support your team. Quick review of the fragments. Magnitude, we talked about, has an increased lingering duration. Spark of Shock allows our arc grenades to jolt targets, which just gives us that ability uptime, so it's a free bonus there to pair with that electrostatic mine, as we talked about. It does take a 10 discipline stat hit, but it is worth it. Next, we have the Spark of Amplitude, which rapidly defeating targets will give us Orbs of Power. Orbs of Power will go into our super uptime, and with our build, it'll allow us to get our ability uptime also, so it'll be more ways to get that ability uptime. You will be amplified at all times, so this will definitely be active. Next is our Spark of Ions. Defeating a jolted target just like our electrostatic mine will give us an ionic trace. More traces means more ability uptime, which means more damage. Your stat priorities will start with high resilience. If you get 100 resilience, it'll allow you to stay alive easier when you're staying in the healing rift. Next, I go into 100 discipline, so you can keep that high grenade up times, which means more ionic traces. Finally, I'd throw the rest into recovery for that ability regen, and also reducing our cooldown of our class ability to pair with the Vesper radius. Prioritize the resilience, then discipline, and then recovery. For our mods, let's start with our helmet. For the helmet, if you're not in need of a huge amount of ammo drops, then I'd recommend running double ashes to assets or double dynamo. Either one of those options work depending on if you're close combat or if you need a little more distance. Pick one of the two there. If you wanted to, you can optionally switch to an ammo finder as you need to, but our recommendation would be 2 ashes to assets or 2 dynamos. Lastly, I would say get a harmonic siphon, as you want to be using an arc weapon paired with this build. Preferably one that will do another intrinsic effect of taking care of unstoppables or anti-barriers, which we'll get into shortly. For the gauntlets, if you do not need a weapon surge, I would put on 2 grenade kickstarts. 2 grenade kickstarts pair really well. If you're going to run 1 kickstart, you might as well run 2 so you get that ability uptime all the time. They'll allow you to basically throw a grenade and then throw a second grenade really shortly after, as it'll fully almost give it back with the ionic traces finishing it off. It'll allow you to use your double grenades, double jolts, and allow you to almost cycle that ability all the time, pairing with your class ability regen, so you'll be able to get all your abilities back all day long. If you're needing surges, you can always switch them out for different options. I would say probably focus impact induction or bolstering detonation. So impact induction will allow you to get your grenade energy back with your melee hits, and then bolstering detonation will allow you to get your grenade energy back with your class ability. I would also say run firepower, as it allows you to get those orbs of power, which will go into your super uptime and your ability cycling, as we'll get into our later builds with our boots here. You will have low stat on your gloves, but if you can put 5 discipline in, it'll be worth it. For your Vesper radius chest piece, I'd recommend running resist mods that match the threat you're in. So if you have a high threat of arc, put 2 arc resist on, and maybe put another resist on for void if that's the third option. Always match your resistance to the combat you're in. For your boots, I'd recommend 1 recuperation if you're having issues with survivability. If you feel like you're really sturdy with your class ability uptime, you can switch that out for something else. And add in 1 absolution to reduce the ability cooldown of all your abilities on that orb pickup from your firepower. And then also elemental charge, as this is one of the subclasses that works really well with all the ionic traces you'll be getting for that free armor charge. If you wanted to, you can switch this down for innervation or a better already, or installation if you really needed to for just individual, if you're worried about your stats. But I would say always prioritize getting the 2 stats of 100 resilience and the 100 discipline. Everything else won't matter as much. I wouldn't sacrifice your mods to fix your stats unless they're really behind, which you may need to get some other gear from the seasonal vendor, as they give high stat armor when you focus gear there, so definitely check out my video for that. And for your bond, I'd always recommend Reaper, as it's a free orb of power when you're using your class ability all the time, so definitely want to be having a free orb. Powerful attraction to collect those orbs whenever you use your class ability. And then 1 bomber to get that grenade energy up all the time. You will have your class ability up all the time, so having that bomber up active will be a nice benefit. You want to note also, do not run kickstarts and surges at the same time. If you're using one, don't use the other. Now let's go over the artifact. To start with, I'm going to add 3 random weapon builds in here, as you can switch these out depending on. Then I'd recommend putting the Arc Strand Siphon combo, as you want to have that combo for your weapons. Origin trait perk, as this season's Cursed Thrall origin trait is amazing, so definitely recommend having that. Next, I would say Elemental Orb Arc. If you're playing solo content or you're not with a team, if you are with a team and that's using 2 strand partners, so if you have a Strand Titan, a Strand Hunter, if you can use a Strand weapon that'll use Thanatonic Tangles and generate tangles for them and let them have them. Because if you can have a Hunter that runs around with his Beyblade tangles going crazy, that may be more of a benefit than you just doing more jolts. So think about that in the style. But if you're playing by yourself, or you're not with the select group, or you're not going for higher content stuff with a specific build, then I would say go Arc Orbs and then run the Origin trait specialization, so you can get the. You will not need the Overload Machine Gun perk, as you already take care of it with your kit. So I would recommend not running this unless you really need it. I'd probably say focus it more on Elemental Fury, Communal Pickups, Refreshing Pickups is more of a benefit. Or if you're using a bow at long range, you can then use Semiotic Striker, I think is the best. Lastly, I'd run Elemental Embrace, is one of my favorite. Or run Elemental Munitions if you're going for your ammo economy, you can always add this in. I do really like Elemental Embrace, unless you really want the damage from Monochromatic. But if you're not using all arc weapons, or 2 out of 3 as your main arc weapons, then I would say take off Monochromatic and put on Elemental Embrace, so you can switch your resistant mods active. Because if you have the Elemental Embrace, you can then take off your arc resist mods and put something else in there. So you can say, Elemental Embrace will take care of the arc resist, I'll then put 2 solar resist on, so I cover both resist, and you're way more tanky with 100 resilience. You'll really have no issue with survivability. So now let's go into our weapons. So to start with Wish Ender is a fantastic addition to this build as it takes care of the barrier. You add a Wish Ender in or any anti-barrier such as an auto rifle. To take care of barriers, you take care of all 3 champions without even trying. Then you can customize whatever else you want to put in your slots. I would recommend for the damage output, you can always use Cold Heart. Cold Heart's fantastic for a ton of ionic trace generations. Centrifuge, which is great for the anti-unstoppable with its blinding effect, and also being an auto rifle for this season, it'll take care of anti-barriers. Trinity Ghoul, not the best for anti-barrier as it takes a few hits to get through it, but really good for ad clear. It's also an arc weapon, so it works with your monochromatic maestro. Divinity is amazing also, so you don't mind being the divinity person. It's great, it takes care of overloads intrinsically, but it won't be needed for most content as you already take care of overloads as it is, but it is a nice addition to your build. Delicate Tomb is an interesting option for taking care of overloads. It's not the absolute best on damage, but it does synergize well with the ionic traces. So if you wanted to give that a go, I definitely recommend it. But your main focus is going to be something that gives you that anti-barrier to fill the slots, then everything else can be just for pure damage. So I hope this build helped out. Definitely give it a try. It is absolutely amazing in all forms of content. The only thing I will say is for raids, if someone needs a well, I would switch over to a well for the boss damage, survivability. But if someone doesn't need it, definitely give it a go if you can. Or for Grandmasters, it's amazing. Synergizes with the artifact. Give it a go. Let me know what you think. And as always, I hope you have a fantastic day.